is faster, a sugar-filled race car or a flying elephant? Well, we are going to test it and we will see which one comes out on top. So today we are testing our maybe meta list, and our maybe meta list that we're working with is our racers one. So this is one that we had a lot of testing with, really liked it, especially against aggro lists, but in order to know if we are going to be able to take it to the Bologna Challenge, we need to know how it fares against the titan of the current meta, which is the Blurple Dumbo list. So Blurple Dumbo has clearly come out on top on so many of the tournaments lately, and it's mostly because it's got a lot of things going for it. One, it's got the protectiveness of evasive, and it's got the card draw of the Dumbo to go with it. So which one is going to win? How are we going to have to change our list for the Blurple list? Let's first take a look at the lists as they currently stand, and then we'll do some gameplay, and then we'll kind of do some after thoughts on there. All right, so we're going to start with our racers list. This is the list that we're really excited about. It is a list that has been unchanged since we started testing it against aggro. So originally when we built this list, everybody was talking about like the scary boogeyman aggro list. And it is a list that I fell in love with, the aggro one at least. So we decided to try to make the racers list specifically teched for that. So it's not teched for control that well, but in order to figure out what we needed to change, we first have to test it as it is and then figure out kind of what tweaks we make. So let's go over some of the highlights of this list. First off, we have exactly 60 cards. It's obviously Amber Ruby, and it is very much built very heavily onto the racers strategy. So we have cards like Taffeta, who is an all-star. The most Taffetas in this are all-stars. Taffeta is great, the small one, because she loses your opponent lore. So if you that Dumbo list or aggro, whichever one you're playing against, is about to cross that finish line, she can kind of maybe buy you a turn or two, but she only buys you that turn or two. The Taffeta that is the really standout one is the bigger racer one, as when she moves to a location, and this deck is all about moving your character's location, she gains you 2 lore. The locations are the finisher cards in this deck. So this is a deck that has been around for a little bit now. You move your characters to the starting line, you turn them sideways, you deal the damage to them, you move them to the finish line, and you get to draw 3 cards and gain 3 lore. Cards like the Islands We Pull from the Sea or the Minnie Mouse help us either dig through our deck to get our locations or bring our locations back from the discard pile, which lets us keep doing this over and over again. Some of the also great cards in here are the Vanellope, the 3-drop one, that when she's sitting at a location at the beginning of your turn, you draw a card and you gain a lore. So she does help you push you over that finish line just a little bit quicker, and she gives you the card draw to be able to have enough cards in your hand to figure out what you want to do, or to be able to have some answers to your opponent, hopefully. Cards like Candy Drift, Wreck-It Ralph, they make your characters a little bit bigger, which might be really important for our evasive Vanellope here. That is really our only way to deal with the Dumbo evasive list. Last kind of ones that I'll highlight here are, we have our King Candy, our 4-drop King Candy, that whenever one of our racers is banished, our opponent needs to banish one of their characters as well. He doesn't count himself, but he does kind of count for everybody else. There's tons of ways to get rid of your characters, including things like Candy Drift or putting them through the speedway. And if you need to just empty your opponent's board, this has worked for other decks, and we're hoping that it works for the Dumbo list. So let's now flip over and we will look at the Dumbo list. So as you can see, the Dumbo list is very heavy in evasives. We have characters like Elsa the Fifth Spirit, Iago, Genie. They're all kind of there to essentially work with Dumbo. So Dumbo has the ability of, you can turn him sideways to draw a card, gain a lore, and he gives this ability to all your evasive characters. So though characters like Genie quest for more than that 1 lore you get off of the Dumbo, it still is great to be able to have your options if you just want to gain 1 lore and draw a card, or do you want to gain the extra 2 lore. So it makes the Genie a little bit more versatile. It's also got some great cards like Belle that allows you to move damage around, and since your characters are evasive, you can choose your fights so that your characters stick around, so you have that damage to be able to move around onto your opponent's characters. Last kind of finishing pieces are cards like Hades that turns something to ink, and Elsa that turns things sideways, so you can either challenge them down or you can just ignore them and quest past the finish line. So this is a very strong deck. There are many versions of this list that are very, very similar to this one right here that are popping up around. It is clearly a strong list, so we are going to throw our racers right into it with kind of two strategies in mind. One strategy is, can we actually like fight down this list and control it? Or do we need to control it? Can we just run right by it? So let's take a look at our gameplay. We've done a bunch of games with this, and I have kind of a post-analysis, but let's first see how we did with racers versus Dumbo. All right, game one. I won the dice roll, so I am on the play. Now, this is one of my first times really playing Blurple, so I'm kind of trying to learn on the spot. So I was watching this after the fact and realizing there was definitely other plays I should have made, but this will give you an idea of what Blurple can do against racers. So not much for Blurple to do on turn one, and Racer starts strong with a Sugar Speedway. Now, we discussed that was a good turn one play, or at least we thought it would be a good turn one play, because it allows the racers to be able to start getting card advantage if they can get the finish line out as well, along with some early turn lore. Turbo's not great for racers, as he is there to be able to challenge things down, but there's not really much to challenge down on Blurple's side. So he's going to instead toss the Turbo through the Sugar Speedway, which is great, and gain some lore, draw some cards, and puts a Vanellope out in case I take out one of his characters, so we can be able to do it again next turn. I'm going to play a second Genie, I believe, here. So it is card draw. Ideally, I'd like more than just kind of two Genies out here, but Genie is a strong play. It's evasive, and I do decide to take out that Turbo, which should keep my Genie safe as well, because there's not much that Josh can do about my evasive characters. This Taffeta is great. First time per turn that she moves to location, she gains you 2 lore, and so she's great to just kind of sit at locations there. She can also help cross that finish line if you just need a little bit of extra lore. And I'm going to play a Sail the Azurite Sea to be able to ramp and draw an extra card and put Niago out. So this wasn't like the early turn that you'll typically see from Blurple. I didn't have much early game stuff for it. But Niago and 2 Genies are 3 big evasive characters that are going to be difficult to deal with out. And so I've got a good board position here. Josh plays a King Candy. This King Candy makes your opponent have to sacrifice characters anytime one of your racers is banished, which is one of the few ways to really deal with a lot of these evasive characters. You want to be able to take out your own characters to make them sacrifice things. Now, I also the 5th spirited away that King Candy, and Josh did need to bait the Elsa out to be able to make his next couple turns safer. So he's not upset that he lost the King Candy there. Instead, he's actually going to end up playing another one, and he's going to Candy Drift the Vanellope, which makes him sacrifice her at the end of turn. And then I have to choose somebody to sacrifice as well. So I picked the Genie with some damage on it because that's the least safe Genie, I guess. And then I'm going to play Elsa Spirit of Winter to really kind of control that field and take out his characters and push myself pretty far into the game here. So I have a better board state. Josh was saying at this point in time he has to kind of go for the win as opposed to stopping me from winning. So he's sitting there with his hand trying to figure out exactly how he can get to 20 before me, because there's really no stopping these evasive characters. And the only way he can really do it is by doing a couple of the Sugar Rush Speedway activations and some Taffetas, which unfortunately he doesn't really have in his hand. You can see that he's got an Islands We Pull from the Sea, which he's going to play to be able to get a finish line back. I would assume that the hope here would be to potentially get a mini out to be able to pull another one back from the discard pile to be able to do it twice since he's got 2 starting lines. But he does it once. He goes up to 14. He does have another Islands We Pull from the Sea, but he won't have enough to play the mini in that case then. So he's going to see how far up there he can get. So he decides to play the Taffeta to drop me 1 lore, but it's not going to make the difference for the game. He needed, like I said, a mini and a Taffeta there. So I win first game, going on to game 2. Josh is on the play, and he plays the Sugar Rush Speedway starting line. Like we said, that is what we thought our ideal turn 1 start is, because control takes a little while to get started, so you do have the early game to be able to do more with. Played the Rafiki to be able to challenge down his characters, and he played a character to be able to start sending through the speedways. Blurple's going to ramp. That's what it wants to do early game, so this is a little bit more of a traditional start for Blurple that you can see there. Play a character on turn 1 and ramp on turn 2, and then we're going to go back over to Josh's turn here with Racers. He's going to play Vanellope and sit her at the starting line. It's going to let him gain lore, draw cards at the beginning of his turn, so long as that starting line sticks around, and then quest with the Taffeta. If I challenge the Taffeta here, which I do, it will trade, both characters will go, but I do want to keep his board as empty as possible to be able to control what's going on. He's going to gain a lore right away from Vanellope, and then he's going to gain 2 lore from that Taffeta by playing her and putting her right at the starting line. And then it's going to head back over to me. So Genie was great for card draw. Last turn, Sail the Azurite Sea for ramp. I don't necessarily think you need ramp super late in the game for Blurple, but I'm going to do that to play the demo. Now, here's my, I have only played Blurple a couple times. I should have not played Sail the Azurite Sea. I just should have played the Dumbo, because the extra card draw probably would have been better from that. I didn't have the extra ink to do it. We're heading back over to Josh's turn there. So he's going to play the finishing line, send a character through it, gain lore, draw cards, and then I'm sure he's going to toss that Vanellope back to the starting line. But he's going to play a turbo there and another starting line, so that if I take out one of his starting lines, he does have a backup, or he's got the ability to be able to use the Sugar Rush Speedway twice. Turbo, like I said last game, not going to do a huge amount against my characters, but at least it's another character for him to have out there to be able to put through the Sugar Rush Speedway. I'm digging for cards. I need to be able to get more card advantage here. I picked the Baymax, my logic being it was inkable, or if I start challenging down his characters, I can gain lore off of questing with Baymax and healing my own characters, which puts me in a better kind of controlling state here. I'm going to use the Dumbo's ability to draw a card, gain a lore twice, once with the Genie, once with the Dumbo, and then I'm going to be getting rid of his Vanellope there. That is his card advantage engine. He's going to move Taffeta just from Speedway to Speedway to gain 2 lore, and then he's going to play that real annoying King Candy. That is a great way to be able to try to clear the field off there. Quests for 2, he's going to put me in the position where I have to take out his character, which will make me have to sacrifice my own characters. Looking at the board here, Taffeta is going to move around, so I'm going to get rid of her by Hadesing her. That's how tough to say. And I'm going to try to get some more answers. I mean, ideally, I want to be able to take out his characters, but so I need some way to tap them. I need some way to exert them, which would be Elsa's. I don't really have that right now. Josh will be sitting at 14 on board, so he will win as soon as he plays that mini and gets the Speedway back, which he does. He puts a character through. He's going to go up to 18, and then he just needs to quest with the King Candy. And the game is over, and Josh gets the win on that, so we are 1-1 right now going into game 3. All right, game 3, 1-1. I get to go first, and I'm just going to ink and pass. Sugar Speedway, again, consistent start for the racers, so it's nice to see that consistency. I'm going to ramp with Blurple, which is what I want to do, and then play a character that can challenge. This looks pretty similar. He played the Taffeta for last game, and it worked out pretty well. So we're going to do Genie, and we're going to draw some cards, and then we're going to head back over to Racers, who plays the finishing line. So put the Taffeta through it, gain some lore, draw some cards, get a mitt full of cards early game, which is great. Plays a backup character because chances are I'm taking out that Taffeta. And then I'm going to play the Dumbo to be able to start my card draw, gain lore engine here, and just like I said, take out that Taffeta. So we stuck with the one character. Can't do anything about that Vanellope, but that is okay. It's just early game for Dumbo here. And Josh is going to play a mini, which is going to let him get that Sugar Rush Speedway back, and he's going to just play a backup character. So lots of characters out is good for him because I can only get rid of a couple per turn. That was him showing me. I said, what happened to the Speedway? And he said, I put it back in my hand with mini. And that's kind of what I thought. I was going to ask him why he didn't put it back, but it wasn't. Anyways. Mix up there on my part. I'm going to play Elsa to tap down that mini to get rid of her so he can't just keep recurring speedways. And then I'm going to try to get more cards, get more lore. Surprise, surprise, he puts Vanellope through the starting and finishing line. Package is going to go up to 6 lore, get more cards, which is great. And then he's going to play that other Vanellope and sit her at the starting line. If I don't take out the starting line, it means more cards, more lore for him each turn, just kind of passively, which is good for the racers. I play Iago. Nice big character, can take things out nicely on his own. I'm going to dig further into my deck, and then I'm going to take out the Speedway. So I'm starting to control the board here. Josh is going to play the islands we pull from the sea, and he's going to get back a finishing line. I assume he's got a starting line in his hand to be able to, do the whole thing again and toss a character through it. Now, he's not just going to toss the characters through it with damage on them because he wants to try to keep them around. Makes me have to deal with them, which takes my turn off of the questing. And then he's going to play the King Candy here. So this is a different King Candy. This King Candy lets him get a eraser back from the discard pile when it's banished. Sit in the Vanellope at the Speedway for more cards and more lore each turn. But I've got some pretty big characters. So I've got a threatening board state here, and I'm going to take out the starting line because that is the best way that the racers can win the game, and win the game rather quickly. And then I'm going to try to clear as much of his field as possible by challenging anything that is turned sideways. That Basil's great because he's got support. It'll make my trades a little bit easier, so it frees up some of my characters to be able to do other things with. Back to Josh's turn. Josh is going to sing the islands we pull from the sea to go get more of the starting lines or finishing lines. I was shocked at how many he had in his hand. His hand just must have been like stock full of all of these cards. The big King Candy here is going to mean that when he puts that little Vanellope through the Sugar Speedway, she's going to get banished, which means that I'm going to now have to banish a character of mine. I banished that Elsa. She had damage on her, so she felt like the most vulnerable option there. And then I'm going to we're going to head on to my turn here. So 12 to 5, but I do have a really good board state, and it is a bit of a threatening board state. This is one of those positions where I said Josh is going to have to figure out how he wins before I do, because my character is going to be difficult to deal with. I quest with Basil, support Iago, so that Iago alone can take out the finishing line. And then I play another Iago. A 4/6 is going to take out anything on his side, and it's going to survive. And then I'm going to take out his King Candy there. So he gets to pull a racer back. He needs to see exactly which one he wants. This is, like I said, a tough position for him to be in because he has to do some quick math and figure out how does he race over that finish line before me. And he's going to play that mini, which is going to, as soon as he inks, let him pull something back. And he's got the finishing line in his hand, I think there, yeah. So he's going to put the King Candy through it and is going to go up to 15. So really, really strong board state on Josh's part here. He just kind of needs a taffeta to be able to push him over that edge, which means he needs to dig down to that taffeta there. So it's going to be really important on my part to be able to kill as much stuff as possible so that I have control over the board. So I need to take out both of the starting lines and that King Candy, so I don't have to sacrifice my characters, and then I'll just quest with whoever's left. So take out the King Candy with Iago. Iago survives, which is great. And then I'm going to Elsa down his two other characters. So if I didn't have Elsa, Josh would have had the game here. This Elsa makes a big difference as it means that he can't put anybody through the finishing line anymore because they're already exerted and he needs to exert them to be able to do it. So this was that Elsa was a game-changing card for me. So as you can see, it would have been a quick game. Josh is doing some quick math, seeing if there's any way that he wins, and the way that he needs to win is by having, I believe, a taffeta here, because he can still pay the 6 ink to be able to put one of his characters to the finishing line, but he does need one of the 4-drop taffetas to be able to move it there to win, and I just don't think he has the ink for it. So inks gets back a finishing line and is going to pay the 6 ink to move Vanellope there the hard way. Gonna go up to 18, but you can see he just pulled the taffeta and he doesn't have enough ink to play her. So I'm gonna quest there for the win. Very tight game, and that was Blurple in 3. So as you can see, it was a very tight game. It did really kind of come down to the last turn or two for racers. Now, obviously, our best 2 out of 3 said that Dumbo won, but Dumbo was on the play 2 out of 3 of those games, and racers did just need one more turn to be able to cross that finishing line, so to speak. So what do we do here? Well, we look at this, we look at the deck and we kind of start to evaluate it. It was originally designed to be able to really fight into the aggro matches. And if we look at the tournaments out there, if most of them are heavy with Dumbo and other control matches, we don't need to be as heavily teched for aggro. So it means that we can start to pull out some of the cards from our deck that are not working against control, and we can put in some cards that might work against it. So right off the bat, in kind of my own little looking at what went wrong, what worked well and what went wrong, and what could have made the difference, that one extra turn could make the difference. So how do we get that one extra turn for racers? Well, one thing that we could get is to be able to challenge down or take out some of the evasive characters on our opponent's side of the board, to be able to make it so that they either have less characters to work with and thus less card draw off of Dumbo, or to make it so that they cannot kind of cross that finish line before us. Kind of give a little bit of control to the racers. So what do we want to do about that then? Well, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at all of our evasive options, all of our options that pump up our own characters, anything that kind of synergizes with our racer strategy already, and also gives it that fighting power against Dumbo. So doing a quick kind of search of kind of cards on a database, trying to figure out exactly what ones could make or break it here. I got a couple that I'll talk about without even really working it through as far as playtesting goes, but these are kind of like, this is the first step. This is the options that we see here. And then we go and we kind of talk about, and then we test them. So first one that I want to talk about is Tuk Tuk. So Tuk Tuk is evasive. It's a 2/3, so it doesn't punch that hard, but it does synergize with our racer strategy because it does, he does move himself and another character to a location when he comes in, and he makes somebody bigger. So perhaps he could make one of our evasive characters bigger to be able to go and punch out one of their annoying characters. Other options that we have are a bunch of Moanas that are also evasive, and the Moanas hit a little bit harder than Tuk Tuk, so could be good there. However, Tuk Tuk and Moana and Goofy, I'll put a Goofy up here as well, though they're all evasive and they all could be good fighting options, they're not racers. They don't synergize with that racer strategy that we've already kind of built here around the King Candies and whatnot that work really well with racers. So we don't necessarily want to thin down our racers too much, but we do need an answer. So these are some answers that come to mind. Another answer that comes to mind is Ariel. First of all for her because she's an enchanted, but looking at her as far as kind of like card tech goes, she does synergize with songs, and she says that when you play a song, chosen character gets evasive until the end of turn. So she could make something else of ours evasive. And she is a 3-cost. She could sing Islands I Pull from the Sea. So she could synergize with that part of it, but again, she's not a racer. So she does thin down that racer's part of our deck. So is she worth playing? Well, she's made it to my, I guess, kind of like long list of options, and we'll kind of look at her and see. Last one that I want to talk about character-wise actually does synergize with it. So save the best for last, if you will. We do have another Vanellope Von Schweetz. She's got Rush, and when you play her, she has evasive. She does cost 4. She's a 3/3, so she does hit a little bit harder. So why is she not in our deck since she already does synergize with racers? Well, she's uninkable. And originally we were looking at her, a 4-drop uninkable against aggro did not work, and Turbo won as far as spots in the deck list go. But if we need to fight less aggro, perhaps she becomes an answer against control matchups because she does have evasive and she is a racer. So if we take out Turbo and put her in, it doesn't change our uninkable count, and there still is a lot of uninkables in this list, so we don't necessarily just want to put more in without taking some out. Last kind of options for evasive, I guess, is actions like you can fly or Twitter pad. They do give characters evasive temporarily, which could make a difference there. So we go back to the drawing board. Here's kind of, I guess, our next steps. We go back to the drawing board. We look at where this deck needs to be propped up a little bit more and be able to help push it forward. And just looking at these games, evasive could be the answer, or a little bit extra speed could be the answer. So we go back, we look at that, we troubleshoot, we theory craft, and then we test. And if I have an answer for evasive, I will come back to you with a new deck list for what we can do about evasive and racers. So leaves us with the question, is racers still maybe meta? I totally think so. Very tight games. Play draw would have made a difference, which means that there's not that many cards that I think we need to change to be able to make it so that racers has over 50% win rate against Dumbo. And over 50% is what we're going for. So that is that for today. I'll go back and test, and we'll see if we can push it over the edge and take out that elephant.